we're trying something today, which may, it's going to be awesome. I've got to have a positive, because it's just a conversation.
So we're running this unscripted, is what she's saying, Jamie.
Now, they are awesome. I'm not a free faller, but I'm going to free fall today. And it's going to be fun.
I think that always the tricky thing is always to start off, right? Like, how do you jump into whatever you're going to talk about to make that transition from?
You do a great job with that.
No, but
you do a great job of introducing it, and then what do
yeah,
you
but
think?
it's tricky. I
think?
know, but it's tricky to do that first transition. Do you know what I mean?
But you're good.
It's
at
like,
it.
hey, like we figured something out, like we thought we'd share with you.
I mean, that's.
Did you get back to Rob?
Yeah.
Welcome to the Morning Startup, where we believe you can develop neural pathways that will awaken. Hey, Jamie, just out of curiosity, is anything going to show up on that screen?
No.
Okay, good. So we won't have to get this, it'd be weird. People want you seen looking at the screen.
Yeah, that would be weird.
So, okay.
It's we have your logo that we put up there, but it's like it shuts off after like 5 minutes. We can't figure out how to keep it on when it's on a still
Okay.
image.
And then once this is
He's smarter than me, and it makes me angry.
so this Facebook Live, like once this will be recorded, then we would be able to upload that to like our YouTube channel or whatever. We could do that.
Absolutely.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
It might be cool to have the logo on for 5 minutes, though.
Well, it's on our
We're good.
screen, so.
This is awesome. That was cool.
Timer.
Your mic. Pull your mic a little bit closer.
No.
Yeah, I don't want to be heard. What are you talking about?
Yeah, you should really be within like 1 or 2 inches of it.
Okay.
Um,
So right here. Thank you.
Get right.
What, Dab? 1 to 2 inches. That's more like 6. Sorry. Pull it up a little bit.
All right, you ready?
We're ready.
Set the timer.
Oh, thank you. Welcome to the Morning Startup, where we... Nope.
What's the name
That sounded good, though, actually.
of it? Seven
But I didn't have it on.
notes of
All right.
Oh,
natural health.
oh gosh, I don't remember. You could pull it up.
I think it's the 7 notes of natural. That would be fun to give him a shout out, because he does.
It would be
us
fun
all
to
the
give him a
time.
shout out.
Here we go.
Welcome to the Morning Startup, where we believe you can develop neural pathways that will awaken you to a full heart and clear mind. Live with joy, health, and success. I'm your host, Michael Oliver, and I'm joined by my co-hosts, Deborah Dyack and Maria Gosher. Good morning.
Hey,
Good morning.
How's
Are we
everybody
live?
doing? Good?
You're doing great.
Yeah.
Good day.
Yes, it is a good day. Wow, it's been quite an interesting month, I must say. If I can just back up a little bit,
It
because one of the things that we have been challenged with is kind of the whole illness virus thing. You got hit, I got hit. Maria, thankfully you didn't get
I just
hit.
burned out.
But you just burned out. But what's cool about that is that led us to to talk about that, because I think it's important how to deal with the unexpected, the idea about burnout and how to balance your life, especially because of who we are, and we're into the health and wellness space. And so we thought it was important to share that with our listeners. And we had a meeting on yesterday. And it was one of our weekly meetings. And one of the things that Mentation is doing right now, just to give you a kind of an update, I guess would be helpful, or some insights, is we do have a lot of product lines. We have a lot of products that are in development. We have some products that are near full development. And one of them are Mentation Intuition Cards. And this product is really ready for pre-launch strategy. And so one of the things that we did yesterday was we talked about what does that look like? Do we want to take the Mitation Intuition cards and do we want to really work on that pre-launch strategy, or do we want to go after another product line? And we all decided that we would do that. In doing that, however, there was some challenges that we ran across, and it came in that particular challenge was with the name Intuition Cards. And what we discovered in that process was that we got to where we needed to be, but there was a whole process in doing that. And so it was a decision-making process. But what was interesting in this decision-making process is that if it wasn't for an understanding of the three of us involved in that process, it probably could have gone south pretty quick. And the reason I say that is because, Deb developed these cards, and then Maria and myself, we kind of worked on, bringing the brand and bringing it alive, and all of us began working together. But when a person becomes so attached and connected to something that's their own, like Deborah, you begin to have some certain feelings about it. And so we began to talk about this idea, what are we going to call them? And then Maria had brought up the idea of intuition and intuition cards, that is kind of common.
Yeah.
That you did some
So you do the
search on that,
the
right?
Google search, and because that's kind of like a description word, that a lot of things popped up. And so
the question then became, for us, now we are into a decision-making mode as a team, and how do we work with that?
And how do you work with it? By honoring yourself and separating, is it ego?
mm-hmm.
Is it simply ego where you want to hold on to your own idea, or is it a value, a belief that you have where you feel that you believe that what you're saying is the right thing? And all three of us hit that wall, whatever, at the moment, and it would have been easy just to say, oh, I don't care. But the point is, we all care. We care because we truly, truly want the best for Mitation and for the product.
Mm-hmm.
So it was an interesting process,
Yeah.
what happened. And I guess I don't want to hawk up the whole
How do we
conversation, but
work with
I'll
that?
share and just say, and how do you
From my
work really want the
perspective,
best?
I surprised
for
myself.
Mitation, because usually it's okay. I'm not an expert in marketing at all, and that's not my area, and that's Maria's area. So I know that in saying this, but I also believe in my intuition to practice what I teach and believe in, that we had to hold on to intuition because that's what the cards are.
Mm-hmm.
So the challenge, that challenge then became, because to Maria's point, well, share from your perspective, because I think that's where this conversation really started, because you shared a perspective from a branding marketing perspective, which was different from Deb. So could you share that for our audience about the perspective?
Yeah, it was kind of more on the tech side. So because I want us to have as much exposure as possible so people can find us online, using a generic term causes us to get mixed in with all the other generic terms on Google search or any other kind of search that's out there. And so we wouldn't be at the top. It might take us a long time for us to get ranked at the top if we were doing a general search for like intuition cards or cards. And so that was my perspective, is, I want us to be at the top of the ranking so people can find our product. And especially because we're a startup and we're starting out. And so we're already at the bottom. So,
Right. But then on the other hand, if you come up with a name just for the sake of a cool name that's kind of a hook, you take the risk of people not remembering what that name is. Like, I'm trying to just think of an arbitrary name that we came up with. I forget what it was, but reading a deck, if they forget that, then we've lost a huge audience. And so that's where this...
That's where the push-pull was.
Yeah.
It was, what do we do that's going to help us in the market and the brand, but stay true to, what
Ourselves,
you're
honor each
right,
other.
and what you're feeling too, because I think it was, you were, and what's interesting about this process is that it unfolded without expectation. I mean, we didn't go down a script, is my point. We didn't say, okay, let's let's set the ground rules for decision and problem solving. The ground rules is this is grounded in love, so nobody's going to get mad at each other.
Order in the court. Yeah.
Order in the court, right? It wasn't like that. So when that was the point, is where Maria's like, it's really important that we pay attention to this. Deb is like, I don't want to lose intuition. That is what this is what they are. And so we kind of, and we did a little brainstorming around that. I mean, we kind of popped off into a few other areas on what the cards would look like. Is it what are the different markets we could go after? Are there different versions of the cards? What is the back of the card going to look like? I mean, all that was part of the process as well.
And we use them to help us see different points of view. So we actually used what we are promoting in helping decision making, and in a loving way, in a way that gives us different viewpoints. Because I know I was stuck in that rut. This is it. And I know I don't believe you were stuck, but I believe that you were giving us a message that we needed to hear, and we needed to come up with, and I won't even say a compromise, because you don't want to compromise.
No.
Right.
It had to be right.
So what's interesting about that is I'm sure people are sitting out there going like, no, you want to compromise. What are you talking about? And maybe that's true in some settings. I think for us, I think what we're kind of building on here is that in a typical, and we all have worked in companies, variety of different companies. We all have been in meetings with a variety of different people. And we also have experience, jump in here, but I think I can talk for both of you because I know you so well. But the idea is that people get really glued to what they want. They kind of shut down, and then they get offended. And once you're in that space of feeling offended or feeling attacked, you shut down and the creative process stops.
Right.
Yeah.
As well as maybe getting to some kind of a solution. And I think what was different for us is that we were at a standstill in one sense, right? So Maria, you made a presentation of why that was important. Deb, you really felt strongly about how we needed to stay true to what and we kind of were stuck. However, let me ask you, were you ever offended when Maria started, framing, or were you ever offended when?
Not at all.
No.
Right.
It felt necessary. It felt like a necessary part to that. Whatever we decided, I knew was going to be the right decision, the truth, because there wasn't ego involved,
and there was trust,
and there was
Yeah.
total trust. Absolutely, that was a big part of the process.
Yeah. Because if we go to like, oh, we have to compromise, that scenario is kind of like where we're looking at it from a personal level, I think. Because
Right.
then you're
That's
saying,
ego-driven.
yeah, that's ego-driven.
Right.
Because it's just about we have this problem and we just have to solve the problem. It's,
right.
Everything else was kind of put aside.
And often when you compromise, there's not a genuine sense of accomplishment or a general sense of happiness with all groups. Right. It's like, oh, okay, yeah, well, I had to give in a little bit. Not that I'm happy with it.
Right.
So we allowed. So I think because we trust each other, and when I use the word grounded in love, I mean I think that's important because we talk in that this conversation around this idea about love is going to be more in our vocabulary as we podcast, as we do the work that we do. But love from the perspective of truly honoring another
That's a key
person,
word,
right? Truly honoring another person.
Right.
And when you're in that space of looking across the table and saying, I honor you and I honor what you're saying, it shifts the energy of that discussion.
And trusting what you were saying, trusting that the motivation is what's best
Right.
for
Right.
what we're doing, not what's best for me,
Mm-hmm.
because I think it would have been easy for you just
Right.
to say, okay,
Mm-hmm.
all right, let's just keep them intuition cards. But what you were saying was
Right.
absolutely
Mm-hmm.
spot
And
on.
if you would have done that, I'm guessing, and I'm going to
Mhm.
ask you,
Yeah.
but would there have been some part of you in the back of your mind going like, man, you guys don't even
No.
know?
What would happen would be like, we're launching more stuff, and it'd be like, Maria, nobody can find us online. And like, oh, because I gave in, and like,
yeah, I told you so.
and
Yeah.
and then I would,
Right.
human nature would be maybe passive aggressive, or it would never end well when people do that kind of stuff.
Right.
And I think a lot of people make decisions subconsciously. So even if I didn't want to be passive aggressive, maybe it would come out that way in certain scenarios.
Oh, true. Yeah,
but-
yeah.
Or the next time there was a decision to be made, you wouldn't contribute.
Oh yes.
Why
Yeah,
bother?
yeah,
Yeah.
why bother?
Why
you're,
bother?
You're going to get shut down anyway.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
That happens a lot in
And
the
I,
workplace.
yep, and I think the other piece of this is the honoring piece, is really honoring the knowledge and skills that each person brings to the team. And I think that's not often, that doesn't happen often.
It hasn't with us in our previous places
Lives.
of employment. And
Mhm.
right.
And I think one of the messages, I think, and why we're even having this discussion is we're hoping that our listeners can glean from this some things that they could try differently when they're out decision making, whether that's in personal relationships, whether you're a startup, whether you're a solopreneur, whether you're in a company. You can think about this, but there's people on your team, back to the honoring part, that have a specific skill set that actually know what they're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
For our team, I know a little bit about branding to be kind of dangerous. Now, not nearly as much as where Maria is at with the marketing and branding and the whole tech side. And I know for Deb, I can speak for you too, but we truly honor that. Which is why when Maria says something, we just don't shut her down,
Yeah.
right?
I totally honor it, but that's not even where I'm at in a daily. I am out doing my deep dive into the meditation, the breathing, the techniques and
Yeah.
strategies, and the courses that we want to create, and the products that we want to create.
Yeah.
And I know that you're going to guide us
Mhm.
effectively in marketing it.
Yeah, you guys are more like the content experts, and so we
Right.
kind of mesh together. And
Which is where the honoring part comes in.
Right.
Mhm.
Right.
We recognize that in each of us, and we honor it. So
Yeah.
what kind of evolved from, like, what did we end up with, actually? Because the back of the card, so just since we don't have a visual, the back of the card says mentation, intuition.
Mm-hmm.
That's what it said. And we wanted to change that. And so we wanted to keep Deb's intuition, but we also wanted to honor
Yes, something unique.
Maria's
Something unique, a hook.
that's going to be able to elevate us when
Mhm.
people search for us.
Mm-hmm. Well, you came up with you were observing the kind of conversation that Deb and I were having, and you just made the simple point of mentation intuition cards, because our discussion was based on intuition cards, just that.
Right.
Mentation wasn't even in the mix
yeah.
at that point. But it was kind of like, well, duh, like that's the name of our company, isn't it? That would make us unique. And so that's we were so absorbed in what we're at, we didn't.
But don't you think that happens a lot?
Oh, yeah.
Like I remember being in meetings where the obvious,
Yeah.
it's so obvious, but you're so intent on what you're saying
Mm-hmm.
that you're not really thinking of different viewpoints. You're so focused on I, me, my.
Mm-hmm.
Like I know I'm right.
Mm-hmm. Right.
This is what we've got to do. That you don't get past that point. And yeah, it was interesting. What do you both think made this? Because there was another thing that we had to do, a very similar process. But what makes this different from regular meetings? But I love our meetings.
Right.
So, but what made this one to me, it was a special meeting. It was
Yeah.
it holds a memory for
I
me.
think it was because it was so strong of a problem. It felt like we're like at this pivotal state, I think, in our startup where we're starting to really accelerate quickly.
Right.
And so it seemed like every decision we make is really crucial.
Right.
And we don't want to make the wrong decision because we want to go and
Right.
keep moving forward. So I think that's why it felt so strong for me personally, is because we're like right on this edge where it's like we go this way or that way, and make sure we're on the make the right move. And,
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think that that's really a good point. You know, we're kind of we are at a pivotal place. We are accelerating. We made the decision to do a pre-launch of this product, and it's, right now the decision. And so I'm just reiterating what you say, but I'm trying to process my thinking to get to an answer to where you to where you asked, Deb. So really, because this is our pre-launch product that we decided on, and so we have to make some very important decisions because they are critical. I mean, you're going to print 1,000 deck of cards. You want to make sure that what you're choosing to put on them is something that's going to stay. So that's important. And so for me, it's just how I operate. I operate by being an observer. I operate by being more quiet, but absorbing, and then paying attention to my intuition. And that popped out. My mentation intuition card is my point. And then it just seemed to resonate. It's like the aha came.
Yeah.
And I know we're going to have a podcast on our cards where we're going to explain them and go through and maybe do a practice reading or whatever. But in your opinion, how can these be used to help overcome ego in making decisions?
The cards?
Yes, from your use, and I know your brother uses them, and a lot of people have found them to be very helpful. So I'm asking the obvious, but for those of you who don't know the cards, from your perspective, how would that help that when you hit that brick wall?
Yeah, the cards are really good for reflecting on how you're thinking. And so I know we're going to talk about the cards in another episode.
Right.
So, but in summary, you get some cards at the end of when you're kind of
Your selection process.
And those 3 cards that you're looking at has words and imagery on it, and that kind of stimulation helps with your reflection, looking at what it says.
From multiple viewpoints,
yeah,
right?
Yep.
Yep.
It allows you to slow down, and as opposed to just quick,
The other thing that I think about with the cards is that what's interesting about the intuition cards is that in order for you as an individual tuning in to get to that place of reflection so that you can gain the insights that you need, you have to be free of your ego. You have to be free of any kind of preset ideas. You have to almost have an empty mind, if you will. And Deb, I know you have some techniques you'll share at another time about how you do that, because there's some very specific things you do as you get to the selection process and about asking questions and clearing your mind and all that. But to get to your point is, how do the cards help by releasing yourself from ego? Is that in order to gain the necessary insights, which is probably true whether you're with cards or not with cards, but the idea is that if you're going to allow your insights, your intuition to work, you have to let go of preconceived ideas. It's almost you have to shut down cognitively and pay attention to what enters your consciousness, and then be able to then bring back your logic and balance the two out. So what the cards help you do is it helps teach you that to get you to that place, you have to start learning how to let go. Empty your cup, as you would say, Deb.
Well, it does. It takes the personality factor out of it. So
Yes.
it depersonalizes something that's very personal. And I guess that's if that sounds correct. Yeah. It takes all the personalities out, where obviously you're using the cards as a tool it's going to tell you the steps you should take to receive the outcome that you're intending, and the steps are an aha moment, at least from my perspective, where you can say, I never thought of that before, or I didn't realize that maybe step 2 was even an option. So I think by taking out the ego or personality, people are more receptive than when they feel that they're being attacked or that they aren't being valued or honored, when that isn't the case in most. But then it becomes personal in a lot of decision-making situations. It does turn personal.
You know, it's
which is
cool about
sad.
when I listen to you say this, and this just happened to come to my mind as we talk about this, about the cards, and this is really a learning process. The way that I see this is that, you know, anybody who interacts with the cards are going to interact it based on whatever level they're at. You're going to have some people that are very intuitive. You're going to have some people that are very insightful people, very reflective people. Then you're going to have people that are very critically oriented, who think everything through, that rely on, you know, more if I see it, then it's real, but if I don't, it's not type of thing. So I think what the cards will do is to help they'll take you from wherever you are and help you grow from that place. If you're more critically oriented, it's going to help teach you to be able to trust by letting go of that and then being able to trust other information that is exposed to you. Because what happens is, how many times, and we've talked about this in a previous podcast now that I think about it, how many times do you get something intuitively, or for those of the gut feeling, and then not pay attention to it, only to say these words, I knew it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep.
And that's the intuition.
Exactly. Yes.
Yeah.
And I don't care where you are, but I've heard that thousands of times. It goes, you know, I just knew it. Or I was going to walk in that meeting and I just knew it. It's like, that's the intuition. So when you begin to start putting those together and learning to pay attention to that and trusting that, then you can make the adjustments that you need to make. And I think that's, back to your question, is I think that's what the cards help teach.
Yeah, there's that. I knew it. And then if you're recognizing the intuitiveness of other people, it's like, I told you so. Like, in a way like that.
See?
Yeah.
But it does allow you to see things, taking a veil off of, again, the ego, because that tends to be a big block in a lot of our lives. And we don't even realize it's ego. We don't even know, many of us, that it's this big bully sometimes within us. And sometimes it serves us well, but usually it's a blockage.
There's Dr. Wayne Dyer,
Yep.
is that him?
Yeah.
He used to say that ego stands for edging God out. And so therefore the love is not present if you're an ego, because it's all about yourself.
I love that saying.
Yeah, it always stuck with me.
Yeah,
That is
cool.
really good. I guess I want to give a shout out to the 7 Notes of Natural Health. It's one organization that we're partnering with. So good morning, Rob. If you're out
thanks
there
for
listening.
tuning in.
Yeah, awesome.
I would have to say, of all the organizations that we've partnered with so far, other than Podcast Detroit as well, giving them a shout out, there seems I guess we're like-minded in that there is no ego involved, and there's such love and support outside, which is exciting for me to see as we begin to grow, that there are people who really care about your success, their success, that there is a collaboration. And as far as making decisions internally, it's fun to see that the same love and willingness to work with each other can be expressed and found outside of our own organization, Mindtation. And that has been a joy for all of us, I believe. And I know it's been a joy for me to experience this, that people really do care about each other. And it gives me hope. I will be honest with you.
Yeah, that kind of stuff is caring for. It's not like competition. Some people, I think, mix competition, like you gotta compete. And really, if you help each other, you all grow together.
You look good, I look good.
Yeah.
Well, there's enough room.
Yeah, there's enough room for
You know,
sure.
and I think that's where, people get a little mixed up, is that there's enough room. And everybody that we have talked to, like you said, I mean, you just know, like when we first met Rob, for example, I mean, you just knew. I mean, the minute I walked in and saw Rob, his light just lit up, and you just knew. Same thing with Jamie and the podcast in Detroit. It's the same thing. I mean, when we first met them, it was just this synergy and collaboration, and it was so comfortable. We even told those guys, we said, it's amazing. We just met you, but we feel so comfortable with you. Bobby Johnson in downtown Northville with Colors of the Wood. I mean, the same thing. We just, we started talking to Bobby. We saw an opportunity to do some things collaboratively, and you'll see some of those products coming out. And
Steve
nobody
Maloney with all the video
so,
he did for us.
So I mean, in thinking about wrapping, kind of putting a wrapper around this as we kind of close off today, we started out with talking about our decision-making process when it came to the intuition cards and how we had to find that place, but it came through honoring each other, respecting each other, grounding the whole thing in love and respect, and the intuition part kind of kicked in and said, well, what about this? And it all resonated with us. And then as we kind of expanded that out, talking about, well, how does that work with other people?
It transcends.
And it does transcend. And how that has represented itself to us and in the collaborations that we talked about and that you just shared and some of the partnerships that we share. So it's some really exciting stuff. Before we go, though, I just want you to do something, Deborah. I know Deborah's Facebook Live. Look at her eyes; they just opened up wide. Is it the 16th of March? What March? 15th March. Could you share real quick what we can look forward to, just in your own words, just kind of a little.
Absolutely.
So all you know, Deb was taken off. She wasn't expecting this, but we're going to be interviewing a really special guest and.
I got her notes from yesterday.
So,
it's very
just
exciting.
Maybe just the name and.
I'm not going to
okay.
go over notes now because she can do that very well.
But the topic
But
and.
Tamia Smith is going to be here to speak. She is from Hungary. She is an amazing person, and when she was a child, everything, was organic for her, and everything was made naturally. And she is a nutritionist now. And she's going to explain to us how to make the foods that facilitate life instead of death, instead of disease, and also the right foods to eat that will deepen our meditation, our practice, and also will deepen our practice of love. And I'm really, really excited because some of the things that she's going to be talking about were foods that never occurred to me that they could potentially take us away from our goal of peace and harmony and being calm. And so I'm really looking forward to her talk.
Perfect. So and we'll be putting out there some more information so you can all tune in to do that. And then Maria, you got something else you'd like to share before we wrap it up?
Yeah. So we were talking about the intuition cards and stuff like that, and it's a product that's going to be launching soon. But if you're interested in checking out the cards prior to our launch and actually being part of the kind of beta group in helping us improve the cards and so forth, you can check out our website, mindtation.com, and we'll have a sign-up form there, and you can sign up, and we'll get in touch, and you can be part of that experience.
And we greatly, greatly appreciate it.
Yeah, that'd be exciting
totally.
because
Absolutely.
you'll actually have some input into the further development of this. So we would love to have you do that. So please reach out to mindtation.com and sign up as a beta tester.
Yeah.
Have a great day.
Yeah, thanks everybody. Appreciate it. See you next time.